Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome again to another InterSTEM Talks episode. It's been a few months since our last podcast. Maybe that's because we're seniors. Maybe that's because we were busy. Maybe that's because we're lazy, but we're happy to be back. And today we're excited to talk, speaking of seniors, about just the process of being a senior, which can be pretty complicated. There's ups and downs, but we want to simplify that process, make it easy to understand, and also highlight how senior year is not all just about the application process. It's also about cherishing it for what it is. And so we really hope that you find it useful. And I'm joined here by, once again, Mana and Gordon. If you guys could introduce yourselves.
All right, hi, my name is Mana. I'm a senior at Los Altos High School, and I believe we are going to be talking about our favorite TV shows. So I'm going to start off by saying I have been on a Gilmore Girls binge the last few weeks. So seven seasons and counting for me.
All right, hello everybody. Just in case you all didn't know or forgot, my name is Gordon Chang. Go to Rancho Cucamonga High School. Gosh, it's so great to be back. And really, since we are on the topic of TV shows, as Mana just said, it's been after college app season, so I've been trying to wind down, and that includes watching my favorite TV shows. And the more recent ones have been House of the Dragon and The Last of Us. They're both pretty good. I would say I prefer House of the Dragon. It's an amazing show, and definitely helps you chill out. Yep.
And I'll tune into that too. I have not been watching any new series recently. Actually, right now I'm watching a little bit wholesome. I've been watching something that I already watched before, a K drama that I'm rewatching with my mom this time. I kind of got her hooked. So I'm super happy about that. It's called Hometown Cha Cha Cha, and it's just super wholesome and fun. So.
So like you haven't seen like House of the Dragon before?
I'm sorry, I have not seen House of the Dragon, but I'll check it out.
It's a pretty rock solid show.
Okay, so let's get started with the first semester of senior year, and this is the stuff that might typically come to mind first. At least when I was going from junior to senior, and perhaps you guys can relate. The first thing we're thinking about is, or one of the things that's on our mind is first semester is here. It's time to apply to colleges. Let me finish my essays and that type of thing. Um, so we're going to break down all of the application process, but let's start off with like the timing of applications. So I don't know, were you guys familiar with the application process before going into it in terms of like early decision one, early decision two, restrictive early action, regular early action, regular decision? I mean, there's all this terminology. What was your experience with that? I guess we can start off with Mana.
So for me, I was completely in the dark. I had no idea what any of these acronyms meant. But after doing a little bit of research and obviously talking to my counselors and past seniors or freshmen in college, they did a pretty good job explaining each of these timelines, as you said before, Andre. So I guess the first thing that everybody talks about is ED application round. And Gordon, did you want to explain a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, of course. So like I would say I'm a bit different. I did know about like a lot of that stuff beforehand. Still made a lot of mistakes though. That's just how my life goes. But yeah, so early decision. For those guys that don't know, really in a sentence, it's just you apply early, the deadline is early, and you get your decision notification early. But the only catch is that you can't apply to any other schools under the early decision rule.
And if
And
we're a fan, oh, sorry,
it's also binding. Sorry, I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
to
yeah,
mention
that. Sorry,
that.
I won't interrupt you. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Sorry. Again, see, there you go. Even though I did research, still made a lot of mistakes. Still forgetting a lot of the nuances of it. And yeah, but there's also an option called like early action, which is also early, an early deadline, an early decision notification, but it's not binding. And like but there are again nuances with that. I mean, it's restrictive, and like you can only apply to one school under that. Like you can only apply to one early decision school, And there's also, yeah, there's also that would be called like restrictive early action or single choice early action.
So
There's also
I have a
like,
question. I have a
yeah, sorry.
question for you, Gordon. So I've morphed into a junior, and I don't know
Oh
what
yeah.
binding means. So what does binding mean?
Oh, yeah, that is a great question, Junior Andre. Um, See, binding means if you get accepted, you go for sure. There's no more, oh, I want to pick and choose. You will go to that school for sure. Now, so that's why, like, I think it's a big idea to like make sure you pick the school that you would most want to get into if you had to choose, and you just really go from there. Now, also, it's really difficult to get into some of these schools. So, as always, there's just a lot of
And
difficulty with
if you
that.
feel like you're not a strong candidate for a top school, um, applying ED could make you have potentially a better chance of getting in. But you, as Gordon said, you want to be really careful in deciding whether or not you have the capabilities of getting into that school and if you're also um, capable of getting into the other schools on your list as well. So you want to pick and choose and look through all of your schools before deciding on your ED school. And another thing I want to say, I think Gordon talked a little bit about REA, but it's essentially the same thing as your ED school, except it's non-binding. So you can apply to one school REA. You can't apply to any other school's REA or ED if you do REA. And you are allowed to apply early action to other schools, but they have to be public schools. They cannot be private schools. So, for example, if you apply REA to Harvard, then you can't apply early action to a private school like Northeastern, I believe. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
There's also this early decision too, which is like usually like the same like deadline as a regular decision, like a regular what's it called, college application. But you get your decision notification early, and but you still got to go. Obviously, it's still binding. You still go if you get in.
Okay, thank you. I've evolved back into a senior, and it makes sense now. So thank you guys.
Of
Um,
course.
And how about academics? Because senior year is sure applying, but also we have to maintain transcripts and GPA and whatnot to make sure that we're not fumbling at the last second. We've made it so far. I've evolved back into a junior again. I think that's just going to keep happening throughout the podcast, actually. I don't know if it's like a illness or it's just for like 30 minutes. Um, so I have a lot of work on my plate with trying to write essays and finish all these projects I have and initiatives going on, and maybe I'm concluding an internship. What are your best words of wisdom, basically, for maintaining that GPA?
Well, first off, I think everybody knows that first semester senior grades are incredibly important for college applications. And so you want to make sure that you're really on top of that because a lot of schools may not look at freshman year, and a lot of schools and those schools would put a lot of emphasis on senior year grades. So one thing that I actually didn't know coming into it, I knew that first semester grades were important, but I didn't know that for the early schools, your midterm report is also very important. And that gets sent out to all of your early action and ED and REA schools. So that would be the midway mark in your first semester. You want to make sure that you're still keeping up those grades.
Oh wow. Yeah, I actually didn't know about that because like I mean I thought like you just didn't have your first like what's it called? First semester what's it called? First semester grades in for senior year. I mean obviously it differs for those who have like operate on a trimester system. For me it's a semester system. So yeah, I didn't know. I was just like, oh okay.
Well,
There's just gonna have to
not
jump.
to I'm back to senior, not to worry you, but um wait. So that you are not worried, I'm pretty sure that that depends on the school. Like,
Yeah,
I know
gotcha.
that some schools do not check. For us, it's called a quarter, not like a mid-year grade, between for the first semester to split the first semester into two halves. So for us, that first quarter grades does not matter, but some other schools it does matter.
Gotcha.
So it's
Yeah, I think sorry, that was a little misleading for me, but yeah. That's an important distinction to make. So thank you, Andre.
Yeah, I mean, no, we definitely have quarters. It's just that, like, it's not. I don't know. People don't like take it as seriously at our school because I mean, it'll check for like if you're an athlete, it'll check for eligibility for like a sport and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, we don't really pay attention to that.
At the end of the day, just keep doing what you're doing. Whatever worked for you in past years, continue doing that. If you want, if you need to continue making improvements on your GPA for whatever classes that might be, whatever subjects, continue working on that because at the end of the day, your first priority as it relates to college admissions should be trying to solidify your GPA and trying to get it as high as it is and it will be for you. That doesn't mean 4.0 GPA necessarily, but it can mean a wide array of whatever is best for you. And honestly, 4.0 GPAs are not the easiest things in the world. So don't shoot yourself over not getting a 4.0 GPA. There's countless examples of people going to Ivy Leagues with a B, even two Bs. I know someone who, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to beyond academics and briefly touch on everything else in the college admissions process that would go into the 10 activities that we have and also the additional information section on the Common App. So, again, I've logged into my Common App for the first time as a junior. It's kind of weird, although I do like the interface. It's like white and blue, and it's pretty clean to understand, a little bit better than the UC app at first glance. And everything is blank right now. I haven't filled out anything. What do you recommend I put in those 10 activities? Like, what are the ways that you guys described yourself? What activities did you put? How did you rank it? And all that type of thing.
So I guess right off the bat, it's really important to show your best self to the college. You only have these 10 spaces, and so you want to look really put together. You want to show that you have maybe one or two unique passions, and that should be demonstrated through those 10 activities that you pick. So for me, the way that I ordered it is my first few would be my big main activities, either time commitment wise, where I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, or just it's has a good name brand, and so I put it up top. But the order of your activities definitely does matter because that's the order in which your admissions person is going to be reading that. Gordon, do you have anything to add about the activities list?
Yeah, I mean, for the descriptions, like you just make sure to make it as like detailed as possible. Within 150 characters, of course, for common application. You get around 350 on UC apps. But yeah, I mean, I mean, you definitely want to show colleges that like, hey, like you're committed to like what you do, and that there's definitely a lot of nuance, and it's also really interesting for them to look at that and say, hey, like this applicant has done my goodness, sorry. This applicant has done extremely well over the years, and somebody who definitely gives in a lot of effort. And I think that's what you want to convey. You want to convey that you have put in a lot of effort towards the thing that you do. And like there again, like I wouldn't say that there's like a particular activity that you need to do, as long as it has an effect on others and is something that you can spend time on. Write about it in detail. And I think that's really all you can do at that point. The rest is up to fate, unfortunately.
I echo what Gordon says about the activities, and I just want to provide like a few like super quick tips in case it's helpful for listeners, or at least like a lens of what I did from my experiences. So what I did, similar to Mana, but a little bit different, is I only put leadership positions at the top. So like the first, let's say like 4 to 5 or something like that, were like listed out. So number one was like things that I'm um, co-founder or CEO or like president or whatnot, whatever those titles might be for you, and whatever kind of sounded the best. But not just that, whatever I had invested the most time in and whatever had the most contributions and that I could write about in that 150 character limit, that went first. And then after that, I did the extracurricular activities that I had dedicated a lot more time, honestly, than my leadership positions. But because they weren't leadership positions, I opted to not put them at the top, and I put them at, like, say, number five and number six. Chances are, if your admissions officer is looking over your application, they're still going to look at it when it's five and six. So I felt comfortable putting those things there. And then everything else there, I put some programs and projects and more organization work in the last couple. But definitely use up all 10 if you can. That's something that you might have heard before, and it's something useful. With that, within that 150 character limit, don't use complete sentences. That's something I was advised to do. Like periods don't even matter. Like
Yeah.
just write like created. Like don't write created. Like use devised. Like international. Like use every nice sounding word, but in a most compact way, and you're good.
Exactly. And also, I think it's important to specify that the activities list is going to look different for every single person. So I know some people, maybe their profile was very research based. So maybe they'd put their summer programs up top and the research they've done up top. For some people, it's been maybe they've been very politically active. So you'd put your volunteering and your internships up top. So it really depends, but I think what Andre said about leadership, you definitely want to showcase that, put that up first. And then the rest you can decide from there.
Okay, so I have those 10 activities filled out now. I'm starting to feel a little bit better because I'm going to be submitting these activities to all my colleges, so it feels like I have like one fifth of the process done or something. But I clicked like the individual colleges now on Common App, and I see that schools have like supplemental essay questions. What are these? Like, what? I thought it was just the Common App personal statement. I mean, what did you guys? I mean, you don't need to go in depth about what your essays were about, but like, what was the process of writing the supplementals and even the personal statement like?
Gordon, go ahead.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. But for me personally, and I think this is probably different from other people. It's like, I would say like how I usually do is I just like sit down and like write for a couple hours. Like that's how I look at it, and then like I sort of just go out and filter in between. And yeah, I mean that's really just what it's about. And and I also like what I think especially yeah, like the Common App essay was long, but then like what's even harder are those like supplemental essays, right? And it's like you have to like go in there and it's like each one has their own little distinctive thing. Some of them are long, some of them are short, and I mean it's all about I think just for me it's about writing through it and then going back and changing it. That's sort of how I usually do things, and I would say it's pretty well. Um, I some of the prompts are easier than others. For example, Princeton had the prompt where it was like, what song best represents the soundtrack of your life? That was a short one, but that was a fun one for me because I like writing about that. But other ones were way more nuanced, where you need to write about your passion for your particular field, and then sort of like explain how that came from all your experiences. So just I think just yeah, just let your stream of consciousness flow because like you're never going to have a for sure answer right off the bat. I think so. It's just a good start writing.
I think first things first, I just want to say that supplemental essays are the biggest scam of the century because the entire point of the Common App was so that you could have two essays that you write that are sent out to all the schools. You have all your activities that are sent out to all the schools. But lately, colleges have been asking applicants to write their own essays. And so that kind of puts a twist on things and you're forced to write like 40 essays depending on how many schools you apply to. But the good thing is that it gets easier the more you write. And so your earlier essays can be tweaked and modified and used as templates for later essays for different schools. But as Gordon said, it like really depends on the prompt. So for Princeton, you might not be able to use that song essay for a school like one of the UC schools that don't have the same prompt. But for the most part, you are able to take essays that you've already written and change them a little to, um, yeah, meet the guidelines.
If you're applying to UC schools, I highly, highly recommend doing those four essays first from your UC schools because they're pretty wide ranging. Like, there's some on activities, there's some on like academic, I think like strengths and passions, ones about community service and background. It reaches a lot of different segments of you and who you are and speaking to what you hope to do at X college. So do those first. Those have a 350 word limit, I believe. And then you can go on from there, increase the word limit, decrease the word limit. But that's a good starting place. And what Mana was saying about a template and reusing those is like so true. Once I got to the end of applying to most of my colleges, just had a few more supplemental essays left. And I was basically copying and pasting at that point, changing like 20 words, maybe 30 words in an essay, and then submitting it. Because at that point, the prompts are so similar that I just nuanced a few words. And sometimes the words was changing it from Y university, or like X university to Y university. And changing the name of the university. And colleges understand that people are applying to multiple schools and um, people are going to do that. And so there's no harm in doing that at all. And that's kind of the point because supplementals, as Mana was saying, are like this kind of scam and there's a lot to do with them. So make the process easier for yourself and that's not going to harm you in any way.
Yeah,
And
and
I
just in
think
case, sorry, and just in case
no,
you
no,
did
go for
not
it.
hear Andre, yeah, there are four UCSAs you need to write. They're called personal insight questions, and yes, they are very long and strenuous. So definitely brace for that.
Yeah, and also, as Andre also said, definitely work on the UC essays before you work on any other school, just because they're the longest and they flesh out every single aspect of your application, maybe volunteering or academics. Um, and so I think that also doesn't just pertain to essays, but also your entire application. Because the UC application, even for your activities list, you have 20 spots on that list. And so if you do that first, then it's a lot easier to then work on your Common App because you can cut down words instead of adding words.
So I have a question then, and I'm not looking for a particular answer. Really quickly, just answer it really quickly. How many drafts should I do? Like, is there a number? Is there not a number? What's the number?
For essays?
Yes.
Mm.
That's a good question. I feel like for me, for example, my Common App, that one actually had like maybe 3 drafts because I was pretty confident in what I was writing. But my some of the shorter essays for some of my other schools, I took maybe did like 15 drafts of that just because I was changing my mind every single day. So it really depends on the school and the prompts that they give.
Oh wow, I'm gonna be honest. Like for me, it's actually a little bit weirder. Like I would say I only really do like I think just one draft throughout. Like I think I usually maintain the same idea and like either I maybe like modify it a little bit, but like I think I usually stick to it through the end. And it's I mean it's just a different style that I do, and I mean I hope it works. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, usually I just have like I think one draft, and I think I'll just like go back and like look through it or either build on top of it. At least that's how I do it.
Hmm. Yeah, the reason I asked it is just because in my personal opinion, my take is that there's no correct answer. 10 drafts, 20 drafts, zero, not zero drafts, one
Zero.
draft.
Yeah.
Definitely don't do zero. One draft is perfectly fine. And it depends on sometimes just the question will suit you better, and that's why you're able to do it in one draft. Me, I probably average 3 to 5 drafts, something like that. I think three is a pretty good number, and again, my subjective opinion. Don't worry about that too much, and just make sure it's true to yourself. There's no harm in doing exactly what Gordon does. Yeah,
Oh,
go
and
ahead, Grace.
one quick last thing I want to add for essays is that if you're having trouble thinking of fun topics and really niche topics, um, and are having trouble thinking of maybe past experiences that you have that you want to talk about, Something I did was, and I think I started this a little bit too late, so if you have the opportunity, do this early on. But like note down an experience that you have or an idea that you have in your notes app, or just write it down somewhere just so you can, in the moment where you're writing your essay, refer back to those. And that definitely helped me a lot because I have memory loss issues and I can never remember anything like what I ate that day. So just writing all of that down really helps when you're drafting an essay.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Like I've definitely had moments when I blanked and I'm like, I've sat for like an hour and I'm like, what do I do?
But
Yeah,
like your life is not boring, you just don't remember any of the interesting parts of it. I think
that's
that's
true. Yeah. And also, if you had done like summer programs before that you got accepted to and you had to write essays for that, look back on those. Like, chances are you're going to use at least an idea or two from those essays. And then just get started. Also, if you're having trouble with actually starting the essay, which is a challenge probably for most of us, um, set deadlines for yourself and not just like don't just write down a calendar date, post on your calendar and then look at that because you might have the tendency like me to push back that deadline yourself. Have something where if you don't get it done by that day, like there's some form of consequence. So for what I mean is like with me, I set like meeting dates with teachers or counselors and had them review like my first draft on one day, and then the next day was meeting with another teacher. So have that for yourself. If you need to force yourself to write it out, you're going to need to write it out anyways. So it's a good way, at least from my personal experiences, to do that.
yeah, definitely keep yourself accountable by having other people look at your work. And I think branching off of the topic of having teachers look at your work, maybe you could talk a little bit about having teachers writing your letter of recs and how you pick those teachers to help you out with your college apps.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of those teachers, let's talk about letters of rec. I actually, since it's my second semester junior year, actually, I just finished my second semester junior year, and now I've already asked my teachers for a letter of recommendation. What do I do in the awkward gap between summer and like this first semester of senior year? Um, okay, I'm going back into my senior self because personally for me, I had most colleges require two letters of recommendation, and I had one teacher who's just historically very procrastinative in nature, and waited until the day before, and I started getting really nervous, and then they still didn't submit it the day of. And at that point, like I had been going to their classroom like every day the week before the deadline because I really needed them to submit that letter of rec as they had talked to me about doing. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone basically getting a letter of rec. But they submitted it, I think, at like 10 a.m. on the day of. So what do I do if I had been in that situation again? First, I want to hear from you guys, and then I'll kind of talk.
Well, I guess you want to pick the right teachers. So for me, I what I did was I had two letters of recommendation options, and my first one was my intended major, so I asked my bio teacher, and my second one was a teacher who I thought would really uh, talk up my personality and maybe some of the softer skills that I had. So I asked my Spanish teacher that I had freshman year, who I never had again, but I had a really good relationship with her. So don't feel afraid to ask teachers who are maybe not um, as as focused on your major or representative of your major, but ask teachers who can write about detailed aspects of your application. And I don't know if that was the case for you, Andre, like if that teacher could really attest to your personality and your work ethic. But I guess, yeah, it's good to definitely um, check up on them every once in a while and see, hey, by the way, I do have my deadline coming up and I'd really like for you to submit. recommendation for me.
So then I have a follow-up question. What if, and this was the case for me, what if the best teacher for that letter of rec is that person who's procrastinating until the day of?
I think I should be able to answer this one because like I kind of had that similar experience too. So I actually had my chemistry teacher fill out my letter of recommendation, even though I'm not necessarily majoring in chemistry. I thought the STEM correlation was very close enough, and I had just had her my junior year. So yeah, same situation with you, Andre. So she did submit it a little bit late. Um, but yeah, so I mean, so here's how like here's a little trick that like might make it easier. Like you do it like all during like I think early action season, right? So I got it all done like sort of during like really early on before the majority of the college applications are due. And by doing this, like I mean, you may or may not like get that one school in, which I'm sorry is just the unfortunate truth. At that point, you can't really do much. But yeah, I mean, for the other schools, like I kind of knew that I would be able to get it in. And however, I think it's just constantly reminding her, like, for me, that was what I did. And it definitely worked because she did submit it on time.
Yeah, I think it's just having a little bit of faith in them to pull through with your letter of rec, especially because there are a bunch of other people probably asking that same teacher as well. So
Yeah.
if anything, you're in the same boat as everyone else, and for the most part, 99% chance that your teacher will submit it on time.
Yeah, because they're human, like they're not going to look at it and say, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it." Like they're not evil like that, and also like they also got classes to teach on top of that, like which is a lot very difficult. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of you guys are asking like the AP teachers to write those letter of recommendations, and that's just even going to make it even more harder. And I think yeah, I mean you just got to understand that from their perspective, like they're trying their as best as they can to like manage everything.
Yeah, it's super admirable how teachers can balance all this with family and schoolwork and
Exactly.
teaching as well. But um, for me, I wouldn't have changed anything if I had gone back to like first semester because the reality is I had a immeasurable hope that they would submit it, but there's also scenarios of like they what if they are planning to submit it on the day of, and then a freak accident happens on their end or something. Maybe there's something like they it could be as simple as they get sick and they cannot submit it on the day of, and that's not their fault. That's not your fault. So I wouldn't have changed going to their classroom. Let's be clear, not to ask them every day, can you submit my letter of rec? But talk about other things as well, and then interweave that into the conversation at one point every day. And I wouldn't have changed that. That's totally fine to do. But there's no formula in the number of times you should go and ask again if you need to remind people for your letters of rec. Now, just to contrast this, my other letter of recommendation, who was a math teacher who had um, looked and oversaw one of my clubs at school, was my other recommendee.
Sorry.
You're good. And he submitted it like almost the first day of senior year, which was like really early, and I didn't even know he could do that, to be honest. So I was like shocked because like the portals only open like at a certain time. So I honestly I don't know how he did it. I know our school uses a system called Naviance, so there might have been a way for him to submit it early, but nonetheless, there's totally different experiences across the board. There's no formula. So just kind of go with it and just stay on top of it because you don't know if they'll submit it early or late. And as Mana was saying, have faith.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, so some teachers have an amazing working pace. One of my teachers, like, I remember I asked her like before the start of school, and she like submitted it like, I think I saw it like it was like second or third period, and I was like, oh, it's like thank you so much.
Um, okay, and then now I've submitted my application.
All
Um,
right, yeah,
so this is like a few months forward from ending my junior year, and now I'm on to waiting, but I'm look checking into my portals because I got emails from these schools saying that your portal is ready. Please like log in for the first time to see if you need any additional documents. And there's like a financial aid section and an additional information section and all that. There's no check status on my application button yet because decisions haven't come out. So where do I find out if I can have an interview? Because in one of my portals, there's an opt-in button to opt in for interviews, but the other one doesn't have anything. What was your guys' process with interviews?
So for me, I got the opportunity to opt in the Common App itself before I submitted for my early schools. So I opted in for all my early schools just because it is optional, but I would say that if you do get it and it goes well, then it's definitely a plus for your application. Um, but after clicking the checkbox, I did not do anything. I just waited for an email from an alum or an interviewer.
Yeah,
Yes.
same thing here. For like some schools like Rice, for example, like and Vanderbilt, like you have to like personally request an interview. With Harvard, you may need to actually schedule one, try to. And yeah, that's usually how it goes. But there's also schools like let's say Harvard, Dartmouth, and Princeton. Like that's just yeah, like Mana said, you opt in on the common application, and then you play the waiting game. You hope and pray that one of these things come up. And more likely than not, I think most people will get at least like one interview at that because like I don't know if they really like base the eligibility of an interview off of like the level of your application. I think a lot of them like will give it to you just I think at a random chance. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, in all honesty, just to wrap up the interview section of our discussion, I mean, um, you only really like recommendation is just like dress fairly nicely. Some people do try to like go fairly formal, but I think that's okay. I think as long as you're not sloppily dressed, I think you're going to be fine. And yeah, just really try not to be nervous and speak whatever is on your mind. That's really all I got. But I mean, okay, so I mean, really, just to wrap up the sort of interview discussion that we're having, I mean, I think all so let's say you do land that interview, right? That's great, I mean, give yourself a pat on the back, drink some water before, and really just go into there, just try to be as confident as possible. And I know it can be very nerve wracking. I think it was for all three of us, and just really continue to believe in yourself during there. I think not having confidence is definitely going to like make you stutter a lot, which I definitely went through a little bit, and also just make sure that you're not really like sloppily dressed. I mean, I think as long as like you are decently dressed, you're fine. I mean, it's not really going to be a big deal. It's not something that is like completely serious like that. Most of these are conversations with alumni, and they're more generally casual. And I think that's just definitely the vibe that you want to continue to keep. But
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
yeah, sorry. No, I'm done. As I said, very short interview discussion wrap up.
Yeah, so definitely what Gordon said, you want to be calm and collected. One thing I noticed is that interviewers really like when you ask them questions. It's less of an interview as it and more a conversation. So they're going to be asking you questions. You also want to be asking them questions. Ask them about their experience at the school, how they, uh, things that they recommend for you to do when or if you get in. Um, but it's a two-way street, and keep it really casual, just conversation like, and you'll be completely fine.
Yeah. So Junior Andre. Look, man. So let's say you've finished up your interview and common application stuff, and at that point all you can do is wait, right? There's not much else you can do. Maybe a couple surveys. I've done some of those, but after that, I think the important thing is to start winding down. I mean, you gotta be able to enjoy senior year. You're never gonna have a high school senior year again, right? So I mean, once that's done, I try to put that in the back of my mind. But how are the rest of you guys like trying to relax?
I can start off. So, personally, I'm trying to schedule everything that's not academic or extracurricular related. So like trying to do like, well, actually, shoot, this is extracurricular related, but like scheduling concerts because I play music, which is something, of course, I had to do before, but now I can do it in a leisure-based way. That's super like like a thrill to me. And then I can continue my food excursions. I've been doing that a lot recently with friends and whatnot, using Yelp and trying out all the latest places nearby. And then trying to hike. And I'm doing this thing with my friends where we are hiking now, which is only because it like suddenly started raining in California, even though we were in a drought for a really long time. And so because it got really green, we're like, oh, let's just do stuff outside and not, yeah, we kind of need to touch grass sometimes. So that's our way of doing so. And then there's other stuff coming up, like prom and graduation, of course, and grad night. I don't know how all that works at your guys' school, but for us, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. And then I'm starting to plan for like summer stuff and like I want to go places and that type of thing. So, what are you doing, Mana?
So now that you're mentioning all this, I'm realizing that my relaxation is a little bit different. I come home and I spend most of my time in bed watching YouTube. So there's definitely a lot of different ways to come about senior year, but I think it's really cool that you're looking at different places to go try out food and go hiking. I think I will probably be stealing some of those ideas because my schedule right now is very bare.
Actually, let me be totally honest. I was highlighting, I was pointing out the highlights of
Uh, okay,
of my
okay.
weeks, and when I'm not doing that, yes, I am in my bedroom watching YouTube, watching Netflix, which I think is also important as decompression. So.
Yeah, I mean, same thing over here. I mean, honestly, like I'm just been watching like a lot of like good shows. Like as I said, House of the Dragon was a really fun show that I love to watch, and that actually happened during like college app season. So like it was definitely something else that I could keep my mind on, like and look forward to, as opposed to, oh, when's the next like college deadline that I need to be aware of. That was for sure
Really
something.
like I really like how Gordon's trying to sell us the concept of House of the
No,
Dragons.
all right, no, there are
Wow.
other shows too. I can do the other shows. All right, for example, like, oh gosh, something that I started, I think summer of like senior year, and I'm still like going now because of how long it is like Criminal Minds. Like,
Mm.
Oh, yes.
yeah, have you guys watched that one?
That's been mentioned at previous podcasts, and
Really?
I think you're on a publicity scheme at this point.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned Criminal Minds actually. I don't know if I started like before the last podcast, but like, yeah, Criminal Minds was like the one that I've been watching for a very long time. Yeah, as of right now, I'm just trying to get to like the new like relaunched season. So I'm powering through with that. But I mean, yeah, other than that, yeah, I mean, you want to find time to like wind down with like actual like your friends and stuff. For me, like I think the very last day that I was working on college essays, like I was going to a party, so that was like sort of the, I guess, perfect storybook ending to my college app experience. Like just immediately I get done and I get to like go to a party. It's pretty fun.
So, actually, speaking of parties, I mean, are you doing anything for like, well, not parties, but like events and stuff? I was mentioning like prom and stuff. What's your school doing with that?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, so our school's got like three, I think, main events that we just sort of do. I think it's grad night, senior excursion, and what's it called? What's it called? Yeah, prom, of course. My goodness, how could I forget that one? But yeah,
What's your senior excursion?
we're gonna go to Six Flags Magic Mountain, actually. Yeah,
Nice.
it's pretty nice. I actually don't know if I'm gonna go. I think for me, I think I'm probably gonna spend that day as just like a me myself chill day.
Do you share, do we have a mutual phobia of very fast roller coasters, perhaps? Or is it more of a preference thing?
No, that's just a me day. I trust me.
Oh,
I love roller coasters. I love the thrill. Uh,
wow.
yeah, because I mean, like the chance of you dying on it is very low.
Then
So
is that just me? Is that just me
I think it's just you,
oh,
Andre.
all
oh,
right.
okay.
But yeah, there's also grad night, which I mean, how does grad night work for you? We're just going to like Universal Studios for I think a night.
For our school and Mana, I'll let you talk about it, but for us, we don't know where we're going, so they'll tell us.
Surprise?
Yeah, they'll tell us when we arrive. So
The
we
day
just
of.
go in a bus, and then we our like senior excursion version is not called that, but we just go to Disneyland, and so that'll be fun too.
Hmm.
Okay, I love the subtle Disneyland flex. I get you guys live in Southern California, but as a NorCal kid, we do not have the luxury to go to Disneyland for an excursion. I'm very jealous about. But I think it's the same way for us, where they don't tell us, they just put us on a bus and we go wherever and trust them. Um, but I also know that we have something called a senior ditch day, which I don't know if it's the same
Ah,
thing, but
Yes.
it's an unexcused absence. All the seniors ditch. We go to the beach, maybe. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that's the same thing though.
Ours is an informal senior ditch day, so like half of the seniors do it. I don't know if it's excused or unexcused, but yeah, we're seniors. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know when ours is yet.
yeah. I mean, our schools kind of has that too, but like it's like not like recommended by the school because like I mean that's what senior excursion for. Like they write in like bold print like this will take place at a senior ditch day,
Oh,
which
oh, really? It's the same day.
yeah, no, it's supposed to be because like they don't want people to like ditch school like that. So I mean
Wait,
that's
so
what
then wouldn't students just change senior ditch day to a different day? How does that
they
work?
will. They will.
Oh,
So
okay, okay, okay.
yeah, because like the school doesn't tell us what to do with that. Like I think a lot of people are gonna be rebellious and like still ditch. Which I plan on like I don't know if I'm gonna ditch with them, but I don't think I'll be at school at that day. I'm definitely gonna be home vibing. I mean, so yeah, I mean, pretty much it's all about I think winding down for us. I mean that's why like even though like I'm not like going out to like senior excursion or I may not go to some of the other events as well. I mean to me I just want to relax, man. I just want to not think about anything and just relax and do that. That's all it. Because I mean I think at the end of the day I think we've worked hard enough in high school, so it's time to like just keep it chill.
Mood. Yep, definitely.
Gotcha. And I mean, with that being said, as we are wrapping up senior year, we're gonna wrap up this podcast episode. Boom! Gosh, that was such a smart move on my part.
Good job.
But
Good work.
That was very
yeah,
beautiful.
that was just gosh, so smart of me. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that's where we're gonna end things on this podcast today. And as I'm sure you guys all know, the all of us here are seniors, and really, I mean, I think InterSTEM has always been mostly a high school based organization. So with that being said, I think next time is probably going to be our last time on this podcast. So you'll still have us around, but just keep in mind that the next time may be the last time. So I mean that's just really how I can all say it. And I mean there's no inspirational quote this time, but I will say just thank you guys very much for listening to us. We're really glad that after our busyness in high school, like we could still come back and do this podcast right here. And yeah, all I gotta say is thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye guys.